This transfer window for the Premier League has been insane this time around. There's been controversial sagas, massive money deals, absolute smash and grabs. Now there's another crazy turn of events to add to that list. Eberechi Eze has joined Arsenal from Crystal Palace. Deal in place with Crystal Palace for a 60 million package deal. Arsenal have come in and absolutely hijacked the deal from Tottenham Hotspur, who originally were going to sign him. In a matter of hours, Eze went for being a for sure Spurs player to actually joining their rivals and now being an Arsenal player. Now Spurs were actually in advanced talks with Eze and actually agreed on personal terms with him. All that was in the way was Spurs and Crystal Palace agreeing on bonus clauses for Eze's deal. But Arsenal re-entered the race before anything was official with Spurs, offered a higher proposal to player and Palace to get one over Spurs, and ultimately got the deal done in a matter of hours. Whereas Tottenham were reluctant to seal the deal, arguing over pennies in football terms. Couple millions in add-ons is not the end of the world. Eze would have been worth every penny for Spurs too. But Arsenal are the ones that got his signature and have signed him. And Eze was always going to prefer Arsenal to Spurs. Eze is a childhood fan, self-proclaimed, and he played in their academy. He was always going to prefer them over Spurs. But Spurs had an opportunity to sign him while Arsenal lost their interest. They were in the driving seat to steer Eze to them, but the lack of intent and incompetency in the end has mean that they lost him. Very amateurish from the ownership of Tottenham. The difference was shown between Tottenham's ownership and Arsenal's ownership. To lose out on a player that you've been negotiating with for days, was right on the verge of playing for your club, and your biggest rival comes in and swoops the player from under you. It is just embarrassing and disappointing. It doesn't paint a pretty picture over at Tottenham Hotspur. Spurs being Spursy in the transfer market and missing out on Morgan Gibbs-White, another attacking midfielder. James Maddison being out with an ACL injury for the rest of this season. Kulusevski being injured, we have no idea what's going on with him too. They need to reinforce that number 10 position desperately, but for the life of them can't get a player to fill in there. As for Arsenal, this is the signing that they really needed. The signing that they really needed to push and challenge for the Premier League title. But reportedly Arsenal only went in to get the deal done with intent because Kai Havertz suffered a knee injury. This deal should have been made despite Kai Havertz's injury. They should have got him regardless like months, weeks ago. Why did it have to take an attacking option getting injured for Arsenal to finally go back into the transfer market and reinforce that front line? The last couple seasons we've seen Arsenal lack in the attack. Players like Martinelli, Trossard and Kai Havertz. Arsenal have to upgrade on players like this if they want to compete for major silverware. You can't go into a Premier League season with Kai Havertz as your main striker and expect to win the league. And Havertz's injury resulting in Eze being signed doesn't even make sense because they don't even play the same position. So what correlation is there between the injury and Eze's deal being done besides another attacking body? And fair enough to Arsenal, they got the deal done in the end, and Eze is an Arsenal player, they got there eventually. But Eze always wanted this move. Why be so naive and passive to a player that really wants to join your club and is really good? Eze is easily worth 60 odd million that they're going to pay for him. And he really brings something to this Arsenal squad that they don't have without him. Eze creates play and creates goal scoring opportunities from that left hand side. Not as an out and out winger, but as that maverick of a number 10 off the left. And Arsenal lack that creative spark and that real X factor on that left hand side of the pitch. Everything comes through that right hand side for Arsenal. Saka being Saka, of course, world class, brilliant. Ben White in support making those overlapping runs from right back. And Odegaard playing in that right centre mid position, linking them all together, unleashing Bukayo Saka. Everyone thought Arsenal were going to address this left side issue with Rodrigo, for example, but that never happened. Arsenal would still benefit from a world-class left winger. Eze's preferred position is that number 10 in the middle, not off the left. If Arsenal had Rodrigo and Eze, they would be really scary and could be title favourites. But Eze still does solve that issue for this Arsenal team. We've also seen this Arsenal team struggle to create chances from open play. There's a reason they're named Corner FC, because on set pieces they're very scary and dangerous. Players like Gabriel feast in those situations, but from open play, depending on the opposition, they struggle to create chances. Eberechi Eze is that playmaker that Arsenal need to help them fix that issue. Eze can receive the ball and make something out of nothing, make a killer pass or shoot from outside the box, single-handedly winning them a game just with his individual brilliance. We've seen that from him, especially last season at Crystal Palace, winning Crystal Palace their first major trophy in their whole history, scoring in the final against Manchester City and, absolutely carrying them throughout the knockout stages. Also winning the Community Shield just weeks ago against reigning Premier League champions Liverpool. What Eze has accomplished for Crystal Palace and become for Palace as of late, he's going to go down in their history books as one of their best players, the most influential for the club. And he's ready for the next step in his career. He's a player of the caliber to be competing for Champions Leagues, to compete for Premier Leagues at the biggest clubs in the world. No offense to Crystal Palace, but that's just how the football food chain chain works. Arsenal are one of the best teams in the world. It's an upgrade for Eze. He's 27 coming into the prime years for his career, and Arsenal need a player of that caliber, and it makes sense. Now, should Eze come into that Arsenal squad and start in that starting 11? I definitely think he should. Is he going to take that number 10 position and steal Odegaard's spot, or is he going to start on the left wing? I'm not really sure. But that left wing spot is way more open for him to come into it. Having Trossard and Martinelli as your competition isn't that difficult to get over them. I don't rate those guys. But unlike those guys, Eze doesn't hold the width of the pitch off the left side. He occupies the spaces more centrally. That's where Eze would greatly benefit from having a good left back behind him just to occupy that whole left flank, so he can drift inside and just work his magic. Miles Lewis-Skelly is more of that fullback that likes to drift back into the midfield, being a midfielder himself beforehand. We've seen Calafiori, occupy that left flank, but he likes to drift inside a lot too and, do those little pop shots. We saw him score that goal against Man City a couple of seasons ago. Kel Arteta will have to do some fine-tuning to either of those guys. But if Arsenal can find that Ben White to a Saka, but for Eze on the left side, just to unlock Eze and let him drift inward like he always wants to, his game isn't holding the width. You're really going to nullify his game. If it works out, teams are going to have a harder time defending Arsenal's attack. Before this Eze deal, if opponents shut down Arsenal's right-hand side, Saka specifically, Arsenal struggled to create chances and score goals. But now they have another player of that same quality on the left side in Eze. Arsenal won't struggle as much in that regard if all goes well. And if all goes well, Arsenal have the best defense in the league with great depth, a great midfield as well. Declan Rice, Zubimendi fits that team like a glove. And now a very dangerous attack to go with it too. Eberechi Eze, Victor Gyökeres, and Bukayo Saka. Noni Madueke off the bench, Kai Havertz when he's back. It's pretty good. With this deal, Arsenal look to be back in those conversations with the Man Cities and Liverpools of this world. Especially before this transfer, Arsenal look behind those two teams in that regard. Especially after how match week 1 played out. City absolutely popped Wolves 4-0. Erling Haaland is back. Tijani Reinders looks incredible. Liverpool beat Bournemouth 4-2. Hugo Ekitike getting on the score sheet. Really entertaining opening match. Then Arsenal rocked up against the United squad that finished 15th, and they struggled. They couldn't build up or create anything in that whole game. They were suffocated. And yeah, they won 1-0, but that performance was not convincing whatsoever if they want to be challenging for the title like they've always wanted to be. Man United schooled them on that day. Ruben Amorim just cooked Arteta. But this Eze move and the hope that Arsenal can just grow into the season as it gradually goes on, playing more expansive football along with their physical dominance and, the set pieces that they're so good at. And now Arsenal are really back in that conversation. Can they win the league this year? Eberechi Eze is that good of a player, and he just instantly raises the ceiling for this Arsenal squad. And there's no doubt in my mind that Eze isn't going to be an absolute freak signing for Arsenal. And just 60 million for him, he's going to be there for years to come. Going into his prime years, he's going to be incredible for them. In this market, that's a great deal. Great business from Arsenal, even though it took a while to get over the line. Let me know, guys, down in the comments what you guys think about this signing. He's got a real point to prove and, a very big jump up from mid-table Premier League to title challenging. And, he's been like the best player outside of the Big Six for a while now. Will he make that step up? Will Eze be a success? We'll see. Anyway, that's it from me. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.